Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices is made possible in part by CIBC.
Good evening and bienvenidos to Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices. I'm Hugo Balta, WTTW News Director and your host. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. On the show tonight, as the city begins to stir from its COVID slumber, we talk with local journalists about how the reopening is faring in Latino communities. The answers to two common questions asked in this week's WTTW Community Conversation about making COVID-19 vaccines available. A group of aldermen will debate expanding protections for Chicago's immigrant community. President Joe Biden counts on Cesar Chavez among his inspirations. We'll throw it back to a 1985 interview with the renowned labor activist.
It is actually a place where you could be very independent, where you learn new things about yourself.
And Big Brothers Big Sisters is looking for more Spanish-speaking mentors for Chicago Latino kids. We meet a local match. First off tonight, Chicago has entered Phase 1B of the coronavirus vaccination distribution. This means Chicagoans aged 65 and up, people who are at the highest risk and frontline essential workers, are eligible for vaccination. On Monday, I hosted WTTW's monthly Voices virtual community conversation about the availability of COVID-19 vaccines. Two of our guests, Dr. Marina Del Rios and Dr. Geraldine Luna, weighed in on vaccine development and their own decisions to get vaccinated. I first asked Dr. Luna about concerns some have over how quickly the vaccine was developed. Here's a clip.
That's a question very, very commonly asked, and it's not true. It's not that quick. I mean, we're giving a pandemic in the middle of an emergency. Well, there is a lot of things going into it, but SARS-1 presented itself in 2002. So we're talking about like a lot of information data from the first presentation of what then became SARS-2. SARS-1 in 2002, SARS-2 now is COVID-19. And then the technology has been out there in the market, it's for 10 years now. It's a decade of time. So putting those two together and all these pharmaceutical companies opening their doors to collaborations around the world of medical scientists, academic institutions, hospitals, people that really know what they were doing came up with what is known now as the vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine. So there was no corners cut. There was no skip in the processes of safety. Everything would have the same scrutiny and the same rigorous process that we do for any other vaccine here in the United States of America. So there was nothing short about it. The great thing is that it was a collaborative effort, and that's the way we had it.
The chances of you getting sick and hospitalized with COVID are pretty high. The chances of you getting an adverse reaction from the vaccine is extremely small. Severe reactions that lead to hospitalization, I think out of all the people that have been vaccinated so far, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Luna, but it's been like 11 cases maybe that have been reported so far of all of the thousands of people, tens of thousands of people that have been vaccinated. So, and I always pose it as, look at the people around you. How many people do you know who have gotten sick with COVID and had ended up in the hospital? I myself stopped counting. And I think that my colleagues here probably have gotten to that point too. There are so many people that I know that are within 1 degree of separation that have gotten very sick or have died from COVID. And so when I see that compared to the minor adverse reactions that I've seen in my colleagues who have gotten the vaccine already, I'll play the odds with the vaccine.
Again, that was from Monday's virtual Latino Voices community conversation about COVID-19's impact and available vaccines. A special thanks to all of our guest speakers for lending their time, to Illinois Unidos Coalition for their continued collaboration, and of course to you, the public, for your participation and support. You can watch the full conversation on our YouTube channel at WTTW Chicago. Now, easing worries about COVID vaccines is just one step in the slow reawakening of Chicago and the rest of the state. Businesses are beginning to welcome back workers and customers. Chicago Public Schools prepare for the return of some students, and vaccines are making their way into the arms of Chicagoans. Joining us to talk about the state of Chicago's reopening are Ambar Colon, assistant editor of La Voz Chicago, the Spanish section of the Chicago Sun-Times, Carlos Ballesteros, a reporter with Injustice Watch, and Kelly Garcia, a Chicago-based freelance reporter covering education. We're still in the early stages of vaccination rollout, but some familiar patterns are emerging in who's getting vaccinated. Southside Weekly created a data visualization showing COVID vaccinations and COVID deaths by zip code. Ambar, do people you're talking to feel the vaccinations are going where they need to be?
I'd say for the most part, no. I mean, we ask our readers on our Facebook page or through our newsletters, what they think, and a lot of them don't seem to have a lot of trust in what's in the vaccine to begin with. Yeah, and I mean, there's also one thing that I've noticed, at least, is that there's not a lot of Spanish language information out there that's good. So when there's already a huge issue of mistrust and a lack of information about it, it just, I think, kind of makes the whole situation a little bit more disparaging.
Carlos, same question to you. Do you think the vaccinations are going to the people that need it the most?
I think when Jesus said that the last shall be first, but really no one probably told him about our vaccine rollout, it's incredible. It's very sad to see. And that map of Chicago that shows who's getting vaccinated looks like every other map of Chicago in terms of the inequities kind of embedded into our city and how we live. And of course, obviously it's good that doctors and first responders are getting the vaccine ahead of everyone else. That makes total sense. But what doesn't make sense is that the availability of the vaccine, which obviously is a problem at the federal level that trickles down to us, has not, we haven't done a good enough job of making sure that communities that are disproportionately getting infected and dying from this disease are then receiving the vaccine. And I think one last point I'd like to make on this is that I think, our inequities here in the city speak to sort of global inequities when it comes to vaccine rollout. I think rich countries like ours are hoarding vaccines more than poor countries. But within that, there are all these levels of inequities that make it so that Black and brown communities here aren't getting the vaccine. So hopefully that reverses soon because people need it.
Sure. Kelly, let's talk about students that are potentially returning to school buildings next week. As we talk on a Friday afternoon, can you give us a thumbnail sketch of where CPS is on reopening?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now there's a standoff between the Chicago Teachers Union and CPS on negotiations over returning to the classroom for in-person instruction. CPS is insisting that on Monday, kindergarten to 8th grade students and teachers are expected to return to the classroom, but teachers just don't feel safe. It is don't feel it is safe to do so yet. So right now we're still looking at negotiations. The Chicago Teachers Union is saying that they want, more accommodations approved. They want teachers to be vaccinated before they return to the classroom. And then, to the side of that, we also have parents who don't feel like they're being heard and that they're being represented at these negotiations. And then additionally, remote learning. There's not a lot of investment into that right now. And 80% of CPS students chose to continue remote learning. So there's a lot of questions around what's happening around that.
Kelly, you mentioned on the table is vaccinating school staff and teachers. What is CPS's plan for vaccination?
Yeah, so teachers just became eligible to get vaccinated this Monday, but CPS's plan to roll out that vaccination plan for all of its teachers and staff is actually not going to happen until mid-February. And even then, it's only going to go first to those who are at highest risk of exposure. And then it's going to take a few months and possibly more to actually make sure that all teachers and staff are vaccinated. So this is going to take a while, which is why teachers are, adamant about getting accommodations approved.
Ambar, what do people in Latino communities think about reopening, both going back to restaurants and bars as customers, but also as workers?
Sure. I think most business owners and employees are excited because it's an opportunity to make money. Having worked in restaurants myself and having talked to business owners, I know that it's really important to fill tables in the restaurant and to also flip those tables. So I think most are excited, but I mean, there's still like this transition. I mean, a lot of them have been putting most of their money into like items for takeout orders and things like that. So it'll take a while, I think, for people to get like really acclimated to all the changes, especially because we're only operating at 25%. So what is that, like 5 tables per restaurant, if they even have the space for that?
Sure, the rollout is slow moving, as you mentioned, and certainly it's going to take a lot of time. Reopening tiers across the state mean that neighboring businesses could be operating under different rules. Carlos, what does this mean for small businesses in our region?
It means that they're competing for the small amount of people who are able to enjoy being outside without worrying so much. And you know, it's tragic. I was speaking to a friend who's been working in the service industry for quite some time, and he said that you know, as things reopen and as they feel the pressure, you know, emanating from those collar communities where things are more open than they are here, his boss is expecting them to come back soon, and he's very uncertain about it, but still wants to keep his job. And so he's forced to make a decision that he doesn't feel comfortable about. And he mentioned that, you know, as opposed to the teachers who have a union, right, they can negotiate these kind of coming back, these parameters to coming back and making sure everyone's safe and comfortable doing so. Industry workers don't have those privileges, and so they end up having to make these tough choices without being able to negotiate with their fellow workers about it.
Many of the same parents who are returning to work have children potentially returning to school. Kelly, what are you hearing from parents about returning to school?
Yeah, you know, based on what I'm hearing from the parents I talk to, there's a variety of needs right now, right? And that's really stemming from the fact that the pandemic has affected everyone differently. A lot of the issues that are being brought up are issues that have been happening for months, right? Parents are wondering about childcare services, especially if they're essential workers. Parents are wondering about, you know, what's going to happen to children with disabilities, right? They're not receiving their services during remote learning. So what is that going to mean in the hybrid like learning model that they're presenting now? And then families are still like lacking internet access. So there's still that question of what's being provided for those families in this new remote learning setting. But overall, you know, whether they're parents that they're choosing to continue remote learning or if they're choosing to get their kids back in a classroom, they're just not feeling heard and represented at these negotiations.
One of the conversations that dominated around my kitchen table, as I'm sure dominated the same thing with other families, was the tug of war between CPS and CTU and the threat of a strike. Do you think, Kelly, a strike is imminent?
Yeah, to be honest, right now, I'm anticipating a strike next week. CPS took a really strong, firm stance to say that on Monday they're expecting teachers and students to be back, and they're not. I don't really see them taking that back. Teachers are most likely going to want to continue teaching remotely, just like the union voted to do this past week. And if they do so, there's going to be the question of if CPS is going to lock teachers out of their account, just like they did at the beginning of this month. And if they do, that's most likely going to lead to a strike. So yeah, you know, there's still negotiations happening over the weekends and things could change, but that's what I anticipate.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Kelly, Ambar, Carlos, for your time and for your insights. Hope to have you on the show very soon. City Council met this week for the first time in 2021 to vote on several citywide measures. Among them were changes to Chicago's Welcoming City Ordinance, which further restricts Chicago police from working with federal immigration authorities, extending protections to the city's immigrant community. Earlier this week, Brandes Friedman spoke with 4 aldermen debating the measure. She began by asking Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa why he thought the changes were necessary.
Because undocumented Chicagoans said that the city could do more to protect our immigrant community. And it was important because we needed to create a clear line of separation between federal immigration enforcement and local law enforcement. We needed to assure our undocumented immigrant community, which numbers close to 200,000 people in the city of Chicago, perhaps more, that they did not need to be afraid to call 911, that they didn't need to fear that if they were a victim of domestic violence or if they were a victim of crime and they picked up that phone and called 911, that they or a family member would end up in hands of ICE. And so by having this clear line of separation, we are improving public safety, and we are truly making sure that we are a sanctuary that truly protects all immigrants. and that in no case, in no exception, can the Chicago Police Department work with ICE.
Alderman Lopez and Sposato, the two of you were among the 8 votes that opposed these changes. Alderman Lopez, let's start with you, please. Why did you oppose these?
Well, my opposition to the carve-outs has been consistent ever since it was first proposed under the Rahm Emanuel administration. My concerns about safety of my residents and throughout the entire city of Chicago. I represent many undocumented individuals in the communities that I was elected to serve in Brighton Park and Backyards in particular. And though we continue to help the undocumented in my neighborhoods, they too were concerned that individuals who have chosen a very different and darker path were being given the same amount of compassion as the individuals trying to do right in their new adoptive homes. We feel it's unfair, and it is something that was cause for my opposition and continued opposition today.
Alderman Sposato.
Yeah, similar to what Alderman Lopez said, I'm worried about the criminal element, and by no means am I remotely insinuating that the majority of people are criminals. The far majority of the people that come here are hardworking people, want to make a good life for their family. But we have laws in this country. We are a welcoming country and a city, but we have to follow the laws. So there's a pathway through citizenship, and people need to come that way. So.
Now, Alderman Rodriguez, to that end, you know, there are many immigrants in Chicago who might not feel comfortable calling the police if they have an emergency. But of course, critics say that, you know, this change would allow violent gang members or those who commit crimes to get away with committing them because they're not being reported. How do you reconcile those two differences?
Well, the fact is, today is a great day for our city of Chicago. A clear supermajority of the city council came together, 41-8, to vote in favor of these changes. The fact is that the vast majority of my colleagues agreed with Carlos and I that immigrants need to feel safe in our city. The fact is the vast majority of all of our citizens are not criminals. We need to make sure that we treat immigrants from a welcoming perspective. I represent the 22nd Ward, the most immigrant district in the city of Chicago. Many of my residents come to me and say, we're in the shadows, we're afraid. We don't want to pick up the phone call if we see a crime, because we think authorities are going to come for us and talk to ICE. We've stopped that. And the fact is that a judge can still intervene if there is someone who needs to be held accountable. The city police, the state's attorney will still adjudicate individuals who commit crimes. That's the fear mongering here is absolutely unnecessary.
Again, that was a portion of a conversation from earlier this week on Chicago Tonight. The aldermen also shared their thoughts on ordinances aimed at curbing gentrification in Pilsen and areas around the 606. To watch the full interview, visit our website. Up next, we throw it back to a 1985 interview with renowned labor activist Cesar Chavez.
Don't miss one of our stories. Get them all delivered to your desktop or mobile device with a subscription to the WTTW News Daily Briefing. Go to WTTW.com/Daily Briefing and sign up.
Among the many changes President Biden has made since moving into the White House is a bust of labor activist Cesar Chavez that sits in the Oval Office. Chavez came to Chicago in 1985 to demonstrate in support of workers at Jewel food stores. In this throwback from an interview with John Calloway, that same year, Chavez talks about his fight for the rights of laborers from the West Coast to the Third Coast.
When you see lettuce, do you still think of thinning it?
I do, because thinning is probably one of the worst jobs that anyone can ever hope to do. But it's part and parcel of being a farm worker. It's just hard to understand how the men, women, and children who produce the food we eat have to work so hard for not only for not enough pay and very bad working conditions, but no hope that that will change. No hope that it'll change. This is a constant concern that we have, is that hope is very difficult to come. Workers have been relegated to less than second-class citizens, not covered, not protected under the federal law that permits them to, that'll permit them to organize and bargain collectively. Men, women, children who work and sacrifice, and they're the ones that they plant the seed and they cultivate the plant and they harvest the fruit, and you and I eat from that. And ironically, sometimes they who produce the food don't have enough to eat themselves.
Certainly true then, also true now. Up next, Big Brothers Big Sisters is looking for more Spanish-speaking mentors for Chicago Latino kids. We introduce you to a local match, but first, to Brandis Friedman and what's on tap for tomorrow.
Ugo, we've got a great show planned tomorrow. The heads of both the National and Chicago Urban League join us to discuss the Biden administration's focus on racial equity. Plus, we'll travel the U.S. Civil Rights Trail for our next installment of the Black Voices Book Club and remembering aviatrix Bessie Coleman, the original Fly Girl. That's tomorrow night at 6 on Chicago Tonight, Black Voices.
The Big Brothers Big Sisters mentoring program has been making matches in Chicago since 1967. But a lot has changed since then. They began working. Now many of the kids joining their program come from Spanish-speaking households, and the organization is looking for more bigs who speak their language to volunteer. We met with a local match to learn more about the culture of sisterhood.
How is your new family puppy?
Yeah, she's getting the hang of potty training.
Like many sisters over the last year, Big Sister Denise Gonzalez Mendez and Little Sister Itzel Rivera have had to share news like puppy updates over Zoom.
To distract her from making barking noises.
But before the pandemic, their in-person meetings weren't around the family kitchen table. They were around a conference room table at Gonzalez Mendez's employer, the marketing store, where they met through the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Metropolitan Chicago's mentoring program.
We definitely hit it off well, and so we were lucky in that way. And then we've just, made an effort to keep it going during the pandemic. We both love putting things together, or redecorating our rooms. We love animals. We always talk about our animals, or kind of what animals we would like to have if we, lived on a farm or had a bigger house.
I'm able to connect with someone, and not just my age but older, and see their different perspectives and actually take in so much more than I would be able to see from my side of my view of the world.
Their easy camaraderie was no accident, says Big Brothers Big Sisters CEO Jeremy Foster. It's the result of a robust screening process.
We're getting to know you. We're talking to your friends, family, coworkers, so we can understand who you truly are, personality, preferences. We do that same care with the child and their family. And while we don't bat 1,000, what I tell people is we'd be on the Hall of Fame. We do a pretty good job through that matching process, and we take a lot of care through that. So once we make a match, we know it's a match that's built to last.
Foster says Big Brothers Big Sisters is looking for more Spanish-speaking bigs to better serve Chicago's Latino kids.
We understand how important it is to see somebody who looks like you in everyday life. Having success, maybe growing up in a similar environment that you grew up in. Even though we do have staff that are bilingual, it's important, just like with African American children, that we have representation within our Latino communities, especially around the language piece.
Little Sister Rivera says that sharing a language helps put her parents at ease with the mentorship.
That makes my parents know that I'm with someone that I'll be able to understand whether they speak English or Spanish. What I want people to know about Big Brothers Big Sisters is that even though if you might be scared of talking about people, if you may be scared of actually going out and being social, it is actually a place where you could be very independent, where you learn new things about yourself. You learn that it's okay to be social.
And Gonzalez Mendez says she's learning new things too.
During our session today, Itzel and I were working on our, New Year's resolutions, and verbatim, word for word, I can pick up Itzel's and say, that's something that I should take into the new year. So I think I learn as much. I leave our sessions learning so much from Itzel.
You can find more information about Big Brothers Big Sisters on our website. And we'll be right back to wrap things up after this.
Don't ever miss Chicago Tonight. Subscribe to our podcast. Get a daily download of our show delivered to your desktop or mobile device. Go to WTTW.com/Chicago Tonight Podcast and subscribe.
And that's our show for this Saturday night. Be sure to check out our website, WTTW.com/news, for the very latest from WTTW News, including special coverage of the school's reopening debate, plus updates on the state's vaccination rollout plan. And join Brandis Friedman tomorrow night for Chicago Tonight Black Voices. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight Latino Voices, I'm Hugo Balta. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. Stay informed, stay healthy, stay safe. Muy buenas noches.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that's proud to serve its community through pro bono legal services.